Hello everybody, I'm Andy Murray from WhatCulture.com.
And I'm Adam Nicholas from WhatCulture.com, standing in for Adam Wilborn, who's probably a very tired boy right about now, to bring you all of today's wrestling news, including who won the Battle of the Brands. And on top of that, the Gobbledy Gooker returns!
I'm going to tell you all about Paul Bearer returning in as much as a dead guy can return for The Undertaker's final farewell. And on top of that, I'm going to tell you who produced last night's matches at Survivor Series 2020. This is the news, and you know, the news videos that myself and Adam Nicholas do, they always go without a hitch. They're always straight down the line and strictly professional, so it's only right that we start off by talking about a Paul Bearer hologram. This was perhaps the biggest moment of The Undertaker's final farewell last night. I'll just run through what happened with this for anyone who maybe didn't check it out. But we got all kinds of crazy old dudes coming to the ring to start off. You had some of the biggest legends in the history of wrestling. Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, Triple H, the Godwins. All these people came out. Vince McMahon then came out and he introduced The Undertaker. There was like a big, massive, long video package with a Metallica song covering the full breadth of the 30-year career of The Undertaker in WWE. Of course, he debuted at Survivor Series 1990, so it's a poetic way to finish his career on the same stage on which he began it. Vince McMahon came out, introduced The Undertaker. He was all teary-eyed and so forth. The Undertaker comes down, everyone else just kind of disappeared into a puff of smoke because supernatural things. Undertaker said it was time for The Undertaker to rest in peace. As he was doing that, he drops to one knee, he puts up his hand, we hear a gong. In the background, we hear an "ooh, yeah!" What happens? A Paul Bearer hologram flashes in a couple of times. Paul Bearer, of course, the legendary former manager of The Undertaker, now sadly deceased. And that was pretty much it. There was piped in cheers, big chants from the crowd and so forth. Thank you, Taker, and everything else in between. An extended closing. The Undertaker walks back up the ramp with the gongs going off. He had a cool entrance as well with like some weird like Command and Conquer Red Alert Tesla coils or something. It was a really cool ring entrance, right? The Paul Bearer hologram, I guess, is the biggest talking point of all of this. So Adam Nicholas, my question to you is holograms. Who wore it better, Paul Bearer or Tupac?
Well, it's hard to say because we haven't seen Paul Bearer at Coachella yet, but I think if that is something that's on the cards, and with the world the way it is, holograms might be the way to go. You never know. But I guess firstly, before we dive into the rest, on a serious note, was quite a cool thing to see, I guess. Like, you know, The Undertaker getting to be reunited with Paul Bearer for one last time, albeit maybe not the way people would have wanted. I find it difficult though, because I've seen The Undertaker leave so many times at this point. Once actually in person in Florida. So the whole time I was watching this, I was expecting, like most people probably, what's going to happen? Something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Apparently not. Apparently just the something was a hologram of Paul Bearer. This was quite cool, I guess. Like, I don't know. I don't really know what to say about this other than the fact that they spent a lot of time sending off The Undertaker, like, what, 30 odd minutes in this whole thing. They gave him the works, let's be honest. They gave him absolutely everything. I mean, think about the budget that they must have spent just on that alone. WWE doing holograms is pretty cool, to be fair. Like, Paul Bearer in the flesh, I guess. As close as you can get it, Andy Murray.
Yeah, pretty much. I was sitting there myself. I was kind of expecting some kind of shenanigan. I was expecting, you know, some jobber to come out and get beaten up by all the crazy old dudes, or maybe the Fiend shows up in his monster truck and we do something there. But none of that happened. I think, you make a really valid point. We've seen The Undertaker say farewell so many times in the past that, you know, a little bit of this scenes, or at least the build-up to its impact, was kind of like, are you really gone? But this had a sense of finality to it, I feel. I thought it was quite a fitting way to say goodbye, and yeah, fair play. It was nice to see all the Bone Street crew people there, and, you know, people who mean a great deal to Undertaker and stuff. I'm sure he had one hell of an emotional night.
Yeah, I think my only criticism probably would be, like, they brought them all out and then they just vanished. We didn't really get anything off them, did we?
Yeah,
they got the walks and the entrances and then nothing. I guess one other notable tidbit for anybody who cares about that sort of thing: Vince said WWF on WWE television.
Yeah.
That was something else I thought was quite interesting. And he was wearing, I believe Michael Hamflett said, Undertaker New Generation era tie as well Vince had on. So there you go, a little tidbit for anybody who likes that sort of thing. But in terms of nice touches and colours on clothes, let's talk about the brand warfare, Andy Murray. I know that's what you want to talk about, really. I can see it in your one red eye, one blue eye. But as you may be wondering at home, who won the brand warfare? Well, don't worry, we're going to run right through it now, because it turns out, and we had pasty bets on this in the office between the Dudley Boys and Wilborn and Phil Chambers and Gareth Morgan of SmackDown and Raw respectively. Raw won overall, I guess, technically, although I suppose with a little caveat I'll point out, they won 4-3 overall on the night, and we'll just go and run you through quickly what everybody did. Apparently the kickoff show counts now, Andy Murray, as it once never did, but who knows. The Miz won the kickoff battle royal, which was obviously at the kickoff show before the whole thing started. Then we got in the Raw men's versus 5-on-5 match. Raw would win the whole thing. It was a clean sweep for Team Raw. Not a good night for Team SmackDown or Jey Uso, who would factor into things later on in the night. The Street Profits defeated the New Day in what I personally thought was probably the match of the night for me. That was obviously another good one, but I'll get to that in just a second. Bobby Lashley defeated Sami Zayn, and then Sasha Banks defeated Asuka, which was also a pretty good match in fairness. The Raw women then won the 5-on-5 match. The most notable thing here, of course, Andy Murray, Lana was the sole survivor of the night, because she's the babyface we all know and love. She was the sole survivor after Nia Jax and Bianca Belair were both got a double count out towards the end of this match. And finally, the match between Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre, the Tribal Chief versus, I don't know what we call him these days, a Scottish psychopath, the brutalizer, whatever you want to call him, Drew McIntyre. Roman Reigns got the win, but not perhaps as maybe fans would have hoped, because it wasn't exactly a clean finish. There was a whole bit of shenanigans at the end there. Jey Uso would get involved, bit of interference, and Roman, as well as a low blow, would get the win in the end. So, despite all of the Tribal Chief's best efforts, SmackDown lost 4-3 overall, Andy Murray, to Team Raw.
Yeah, although I think it's quite telling that WWE didn't even bother keeping a tally this year. They're just like, brand supremacy, can't be bothered anymore, mate. Which kind of fits the pay-per-view as a whole. It was kind of like a night of fun exhibition matches more than anything else. But yeah, I guess an interesting point from that opener on the main card as well is just Raw totally sweeping SmackDown 5-0, which was an interesting booking choice, I think. I've seen a lot of people lose their minds over it. I don't think it's worth that, maybe. But it's an interesting choice nonetheless. Also, Keith Lee has new entrance music, which is better than the old one. I don't know what relevance that has to anything, so let's just
I will say one of the things, Seth Rollins sacrificed himself at the very beginning of the match and just got down on his knees and let himself get kicked in the face, which was an interesting choice.
For the greater good, who would argue. Let's talk about who produced these matches at Survivor Series. There's not really a whole lot to pick apart here, but some interesting points nonetheless. So the pre-show Battle Royal, the kickoff show, Joe Brand Battle Royal was produced by Adam Pearce. So not only is he like a weird general manager caretaker guy, he's also producing big-time pay-per-view matches. The men's 5-on-5 elimination match was produced by Chris Park. That is the former Abyss. Street Profits and New Day, one of the best matches of the night. Pat Buck produced that. You've seen him getting smashed up by Nia Jax on Raw this year. Bobby Lashley versus Sami Zayn was produced by Jason Jordan. Asuka versus Sasha Banks, another one of the night's better matches, produced, no surprise, by Tyson Kidd. The women's elimination match produced by Tyson Kidd and Pat Buck. So there you go, big Lana fans. And Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre was produced by Michael P.S. Hayes. There you go, those are the people responsible for those matches. Cool. I don't really have anything to add to that, although I would like to know, Andy Murray, perhaps, who booked the segments involving our next news story with the Gobbledy Gooker. Let's go right across the story you've all been waiting for amongst this news. Yes, it was the 30-year anniversary of a huge icon, as our good man Andy Murray wrote in the news article for this. The Gobbledy Gooker, not the Undertaker. Forget about that, because the Gobbledy Gooker is back. He obviously hatched out of his lovely egg back in 1990. It was an iconic moment that will live on in the memories forever, but he decided to come back one more time to Survivor Series, and he was a busy lad because he managed to actually become the 24/7 champion on the night. He would actually end up, R-Truth, who he started the night as friends with, he ended up turning on him. The Gobbledy Gooker won the belt, but sadly it was short-lived, Andy Murray. Akira Tozawa would steal it off him before R-Truth would steal it back in the end. So ultimately,
back to our truth, I guess, forever as it always is. But the big news, yeah, the Gobbledygook is back. I hope we get a title run, man. A big title run.
Interesting of them to pay tribute to the real greatest debut at Survivor Series 1990 with the return of the Gobbledygooker. Like, this was a nice touch, right? It was kind of funny because, you know, the banter has always been, oh yeah, the Undertaker's big debut at Survivor Series 90, but what about the turkey? Tommy the turkey is gobbledygook, that's the way the turkey alphabet castle. Anyway, let's move on to the Twitter questions. The gobble turkey. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Go on, give me some Twitter questions.
Let's hit the twits. Sam Ludlow this morning asks, with The Undertaker's retirement, who would you have induct him into the Hall of Fame? For me, it's either got to be Kane or Vince McMahon. I would go one step different and have the Paul Bearer hologram induct The Undertaker into the Hall of Fame. Adam Nicholas, what do you think?
I mean, I can't top that, but I would actually say, sincerely, I think Kane, maybe. It feels like the right choice. I do agree there.
Kane or Midian, perhaps. Let's...
Cool. Michelle McCool.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Mark McCool getting inducted by Michelle Undertaker makes all the sense in the world to me. Another one here from everyone's favourite misfit, Legend, who asks, clearly the brand warfare between Raw and SmackDown is meaningless. Should WWE consider making Survivor Series a main roster versus NXT pay-per-view? Almost every NXT promo talks about how it is the hottest brand in sports entertainment, so it will make more sense. Yeah, I think NXT's inclusion to Survivor Series last year really jazzed it up. I thought the build was really good. Pay-per-view was very exciting, of course, with NXT coming away with the overall victory on the night. I would be in favour of that. I would be totally in favour of that, because with NXT as well, you don't have the problem of like the draft happening like a month before it. So you've seen a bunch of these people interact already. You don't see many NXT people going back and forth all the time these days. So I'd be for that. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the truest brand out of the three of them, isn't it? Let's be honest. I was looking at the teams and thinking like that person was literally just on SmackDown. There's no loyalty there whatsoever. I don't know if I'd want all of the main roster versus all of NXT. I think I quite like the three teams. I thought that worked quite well. But any inclusion of NXT, I think, would be better for this pay-per-view.
Yeah, and last year's pay-per-view, I think, is perfect evidence for that. Final question today comes from Mike on the Mic, who asks, what are your thoughts on Survivor Series? Do you think that WWE should go back to multiple elimination matches, as was back in the day, and giving them, like, named teams? So, like, the Phenomenal Team versus the King's Court. This is another thing I'm interested in as well. Like, I think, why couldn't we this year, for example? I mean, Retribution... not the best stable in the world, but it would have made great sense for them to have like a Retribution versus like a Hurt Business elimination match this year. But they can't do that at the moment because it's t-shirt time in November, as we all know. It's red and blue, and if you mix them together, what do you get? Purple? I don't know. 205 Live wins in the end. There we go. Bad Nicholas, what do you think? Back to the era of named teams, get rid of brand supremacy maybe?
I just feel like brand supremacy is all good and well, and I do have to say I'm a fan of the champion versus champion matches. I wonder if there's a way that we can kind of blend the two together, because how have you not got Retribution on a pay-per-view that requires a bunch of people on the team? And again, as you say, Hurt Business as well fit that bill perfectly. It seems like there's a bunch of people who could have done this, and yet they get so caught up in blue and red. What's your favourite colour, brother? Who knows? Somewhere in the middle for me, please. I would like that. I am a big fan of those champion versus champion matches. When they're good, I should point out.
Absolutely, when they are good. Speaking of things that are good, around finally today.
Good as well.
Right. So last week, The Undertaker obviously made headlines, cameos. He was offering 30 cameos for $1,000 a pop. Well, these cameos were presumably filmed at Survivor Series last night because he was in full gimmick and he was standing behind before what looked like a WWE stage, but they've made it online. I've retweeted a thread of them this morning at Andy H. Murray on Twitter. Check them out. Some of these things they're a hoot, they're a riot. There's one where The Undertaker starts off by going, he's got his hat and he's like, "All elite Scooby-Doo," and it's the most ridiculous thing I've seen. If you want to see The Undertaker going, "Well, Kevin, I heard you've been really good at baseball this year," check these out. They're a hoot. $1,000 worth? I mean, value is in the eye of the beholder, fair play, whatever. But we had a jolly good time perusing these this morning.
I think this is the real Undertaker send-off for me. I've seen so many at this point, but if he's going to leave me with a wealth of videos like he has in these cameos, I'm all for it, because who doesn't want to hear All Elite Scooby-Doo?
And shout outs to All Elite Scooby-Doo, by the way, whoever you
Shout
are,
out,
congratulations on your upcoming marriage. I think that means that All Elite Scooby-Doo now owes us $1,000.
Possibly.
Quid in! Anyway, thank you for joining us on today's weird news video where we've talked about 2-pack holograms, Paul Bearer, turkeys, and All Elite Scooby-Doo. You can find us on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Send us your Twitter questions right there. We'll get to them tomorrow morning. You can find Adam Nicholas on Twitter at...
It's Adam Nicholas, and you can find Andy Murray on Twitter.
You can find me on Twitter at Andy H. Murray. The H stands for Hit 'Em Up, which is, of course, my favourite Paul Bearer song.
There it is.
Goodbye. Bye.